Well, there's that joke that says there must be a studio in heaven, man, because Tupac's dead and he's still producing albums. He's still breaking music, man.
Well, so are the Beatles, man.
Yeah, so,
Michael Jackson too.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be too long until we see them back out on stage with some hologram. I heard rumors of the Jackson 5 are getting back together again and touring. I think they're actually touring right now. I have a feeling that the whole Tupac thing
with the hologram,
I think they're going to implement Michael Jackson. If they do that, that concert will be huge. If you see little Michael Jackson out there back on stage with his family doing his thing, and even maybe progressing, watching him grow up and perform those old school songs, I think that would be a concert to see.
You may have just given Epic Records an idea there.
But all those stories, that's the point I'm trying to make. When I was growing up, you had all those legends being passed around. And there was no real internet to connect, to get out there. Everybody just knew the history because everybody talked about it. Everybody was familiar with it.
My thing was, growing up, there was 3 magazines, and that was Hit Parader, Circus,
and
Rolling Stone magazine. And these were like I didn't have the money to go and actually buy the magazine, so I would go to the Thrifties or the local little Stater Brothers, the local market, and I go to the magazine section and I just sit there and I'd read the whole magazine right there, man, in the store, And then as I got older, I found ways to accumulate money. I'm not gonna go into how, but I would buy the magazine. You know what I mean? And my walls were plastered. That's why it reminded me, when we went to Captain Ed's, when we did the interview at Captain Ed's, I said, this looks like my fucking bedroom when I was 15, man. Because it's the same thing, man. And I had my black lights, we smoke pot and, put on the fucking B-side, Speak of the Devil, man, and we'd be jamming out, getting loaded, and it's, that was the thing. And then again, you read the stories in the magazines, about the reporters going on tour with these people. And all these crazy stories, So that's that was my way of getting information, through Circus magazine, through Hit Parader, through Rolling Stone magazine. These were my ways of collecting all my information for anything that I've possibly learned was through that. Or they had a show back then. It was, oh my God. Headbangers Ball.
Yeah.
Ricky Rackman. Ricky Rackman. And that was the first time I heard oh, we don't care what you say, fuck you. It'll come to me later on in the show, but that was one of the bands that really hit me hard, you know what I mean? It was because you weren't hearing vulgar language on now it's you can say shit and all these other on basic cable, you know what I mean? It's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? And even on ABC, they'll show you an ass.
Suicidal Tendencies?
No, it wasn't Suicidal Tendencies. It was Overkill. I don't
even know who that is.
Yeah, and dude, I could just name off bands, dude. That people today, you have to be really, really knowledgeable. King Diamond, Voivod, Death Angel, Man of War, and these are bands that they're not mainstream bands. Even to this day, they're playing music. They're not mainstream, you know what I mean? Diamond Head, you know what I mean? Dream Theater, Angel Dust, which was actually, Chris Angel, the magician Chris Angel, that was his band, Angel Dust.
Wow.
Yeah. And so this is a lot of the knowledge that I've got, and that was one of the challenges that you presented to me when we did this. I called the assignment for the show. You said, I know you know a lot about heavy metal, but try and go, get some hip hop or get something other than, and I had the same problem you had when I went on Wikipedia. I'm searching, and then down at the bottom, the stuff that I got, I went and arrest history. Oh, that must be something.
Yeah.
And that's where I got my information from. It's arrest history. And, people look at these, the society looks at these people and they see them as, and not to say that they're not, I don't want to give them, short them any credit, but they're geniuses with the music and stuff, but they're human, and as we said last week, we're fallible, and so I think that's what this piece that we're doing now, this little thing that we're doing now, it's just showing the people that, you know what, you can have all the money in the world. You know, crazy is crazy, man. You know, crazy is as crazy does. You know, you're only crazy if crazy be you. You know, so that's one of the things that I just wanted to point out. So anyway, that being said, what's your first story?
I think one of my favorite artists, Jim Morrison, is going to start it off for me.
There you go, the Doors.
And I think they showed a glimpse of this in the movie, where he's leaning against the bar, and the bartender gets mad at him because he's taking a piss on the fucking. But they gave insight to what leads up to that, why he's not walking 30 paces to go to the bathroom. This is out of the book Everybody Must Get Stoned by Are You Serious? That's the author's name. I don't know. Never heard of it. But Ronnie Cutrone, an artist and denizen of Andy Warhol's 1960s factory scene, described a typical night out with the Doors' lead vocalist. Jim would go out, leaned up against the bar, order 8 screwdrivers, put down 6 Tuinals on the bar, drink 2 or 3 screwdrivers, take 2 Tuinals, then he'd have to pee. But he couldn't leave the other 5 screwdrivers. So he'd take his dick out and pee, and some girl would come up and blow his dick. And then he'd finish the other 5 screwdrivers, and then he'd finish the other 4 Tuinals. And then he'd pee in his pants, and then Eric Emerson and I would take him home.
Wow.
That sounds like that's a rock star.
That's rock and roll, motherfuckers. That's rock and roll right there.
when you have such a lack of respect, or you're so separated from social convention that everywhere becomes your toilet.
Right. Not only did I just pee, suck my dick.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Like the girls.
That's rock star, motherfucker.
Where they're so enamored by your fame that it doesn't matter that you've just been evacuating your bowels.
Right.
That she just wants to go ahead and please you.
Well, there was a story back in. I read the book. Oh my God! Now it's lost me. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Anthony Kiedis, Scarred. Anyway, they're backstage one time, and they're after the show, right? And the groupies come backstage. One of the girls, and Fleet's taking off his underwear. He's changing, and she literally squeezes the sweat out of the underwear, and she drinks the sweat, and she says, "Now I have a part of him in me." So when you're talking,
I know there's an easier way to get a part of you in.
So when you're talking about that whole bigger than life thing, and people see you like that, I mean, that's, like I said, crazy as crazy, motherfuckers. So my story, the one I have is again, I went back to the whole hip hop genre. And basically, this was about when Vanilla Ice, when he came out with Ice Ice Baby, and that was a big thing. So and again, I got everything you're going to hear from me is from Wikipedia. So this is following the success of Ice Ice Baby, record producer Suge Knight and 2 bodyguards arrived at the Palms in West Hollywood when Van Winkle, which is Vanilla Ice's real name, was eating. After shoving Van Winkle's bodyguards aside, Suge Knight and his own bodyguards sat down in front of Van Winkle, staring at him, before finally saying, "How you doing?" 2 or 3 times this had happened. Eventually, Knight showed up at Van Winkle's hotel suite on the 15th floor of the Bellage Hotel, accompanied by a member of the Oakland Raiders. According to Van Winkle, Knight took him out on the balcony by himself and implied that he would throw him off the balcony unless he signed the publishing rights of the song over the night. Knight used Van Winkle's money to help fund Death Row Records. So there it is there. If it wasn't, and that goes back to, it's funny because that goes back to David Bowie, because David Bowie had a song, dun 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 dun, and I think the company of David Bowie tried to sue Vanilla Ice for copywriting that, for infringing.
Yeah, copyright infringement.
And so they had a whole court thing about it, and I don't know whatever happened.
He lost.
Did he?
Vanilla Ice won.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Because it was one little thing.
Right, he changed the bar.
One little bar changed. Yeah, because I remember him doing an interview somewhere, and he talked about that. And he was like, no, their part is ding, 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 ding. And mine is ding, 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 ding. That one little bar. And he was talking about, and I'm like, that one.
Yeah, it holds up in court, but you're still a douchebag.
Yeah, total fucking douchebag. So anyway, but that's, you know, like I said, it's funny how history plays itself out in the music world.
So Dee Dee Ramone of the Ramones found himself at a party in London, hanging out for a few moments in the bathroom, snorting great quantities of speed. It wasn't the sort of place you'd want to hang out with or hang out in for too long, as Dee Dee quickly noticed that the bathroom was disgusting. Sinks, toilets, everything was full of vomit, piss, and shit. Sid Vicious, a key figure in the London punk scene, but not yet a member of the Sex Pistols, wandered in and asked Dee Dee if he had anything to get high on. So Dee Dee generously gave Sid some of his crank. Vicious pulled out a syringe, stuck it into the toilet filled with puke and piss, and then loaded it with speed and shot himself up.
Whoa. Ugh. I'm vomiting as I hear that.
So if any of you were wondering why and what brought him to overdosing, I'm sure that was inevitable.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard stories of people shooting up with fucking gutter water. You know, they're just sitting on the fucking curb and they need to get high. You know, and they're just pulling up that fucking.
Yeah, you and I have heard all the stories where you if it looks like dope, it's going in your vein, and that's, your body's gonna tell you if it is.
It doesn't look like dope. Just tell me it's dope. I'm sure I've shot bare aspens more times than I can account for.
Wow.
Okay, here we go. The legal problems of Rick James. Everybody knows him for Super Freak, and he was actually one of his songs. One of his beats was actually MC Hammer took it and was Can't Touch This. He did that one, you know, he did that. In the start of 1990 brought a string of bizarre and sometimes horrific incidents for Rick James. He later admitted to spending about $7,000 a week on drugs for 5 years straight. In 1993, he and his future wife Tanya Hijazi were accused of holding 24-year-old Frances Alley hostage up for 6 days, tying her up, forcing her to perform sexual acts, and burning her legs and abdomen with a hot end of a crack pipe during the week-long of a cocaine binge in 1993. While out on bail from that earlier incident, Rick James, under the influence of cocaine, assaulted music executive Mary Sauger at the St. James Club and Hotel in West Hollywood. Sauger claims that she met James and Hijazi for a business meeting, but said that the two then kidnapped her and beat her for over 20 hours. On the morning of August 6, 2004, Rick James was found dead in his Los Angeles home in California. So he ended up spending he spent a few years in prison for that, Folsom Prison, as a matter of fact. And he lost a $2 million civil suit. So yeah, crazy's crazy, like I said. And he does they do a good show on him on what is it, Charlie Murphy Stories.
Oh yeah,
on Dave Chappelle's. Yeah. And that's real shit, man. That's real shit that really happened.
Yeah.
And even Rick James, what'd he say? Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's wow. And like I said, it doesn't matter how famous you are, man. How much creative power you had, you know.
Drugs get you high.
Drugs get you fucking high. And I don't know if it works for everybody, but it takes up. For me, when I was pursuing my music career, you know, I could never perform sober. I never performed sober. Never. I was always high, man. I was always high or loaded or stoned or something, you know what I mean? And that's what fueled my, and I say this in quotations, my creativity and my imagination. And you know, it's a shame that people have to go through that to it's very rare that you see an artist. I think there's only two people that I can specifically think of that at least they say that they never have. And that's Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden and the lead singer of Kiss, Gene Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
Gene Simmons. So I think you have a story on him too, right?
I do.
Okay.
It is my next one. At crack.com, I read an article by Michael Swaim. Kiss, in one of the more ridiculous marketing gimmicks of the last